Mervyn said, "Hey Craig, I just wanted to ask you, have you ever felt exhausted about discussing the Trent situation?" Yes, yes, yes. A lot, mate. A lot. I wind myself up, Mervyn. That's what happened, you see. So we start talking about Trent, and we will again tonight. And I start winding myself up about it. It's not so much the comments. I mean, what you guys say and do and ask, absolutely fine. That's what I'm here for. You can ask as many times as you want. But I'm just getting wound up by the whole thing. Not you, as I said, but certainly the situation that we are still here. And the bit we're going to move on to speak about in a moment from David Ornstein doesn't exactly look like we're about to see it signed off either. So we'll talk about that in a second. Right, let's talk about Trent for a minute. Because David Ornstein came out with something earlier on which, not great reading, said Trent, the first part of this, by the way, is absolute PR waffle. Said Trent Alexander-Arnold has demonstrated strong loyalty to Liverpool and the club is making every effort to retain him. That's just PR waffle. No need for that. Then he comes out with, however, there have been no significant progress in negotiations so far. This to me feels like Trent's camp have briefed David Ornstein on something. The first part of that is what makes me feel like he's been briefed at from Trent's camp. Because why come out with he's demonstrated strong loyalty to Liverpool? Has he? Has he? Genuine question. How? How? That pissed me off when I read it. Because if you've demonstrated strong loyalty to Liverpool, you'd be signing a contract by now. And you'll be letting it be known in no uncertain terms that this is where you want to be, playing your football. And I don't care what anybody says. Nobody's heard that out of Trent's mouth. So this to me is another situation of footballers living in this bubble of ignorance and thinking, oh, I'm tremendous. You are loyal, Trent, and we love you. But fuck me, come out and say you want to stay, bro. You know? But that last part worries me. There's been no significant progress in negotiations so far. You know, if you couple that with what was said the other day, there was around 100 grand in the difference of valuations. I don't know what to say about it all, because let's just say the comments on any video we talk about this are not very upbeat. You know, people are getting a little bit frustrated, I think, now by radio silence and a lack of any movement in the right direction. I don't know. I've always been honest with you guys and said this is the one deal that I've had nothing on, so I haven't got a clue. But David Ornstein, you know, has obviously heard something because he's not a spoofer. So for him to come out and say there's been no significant progress, that worries me. Because we are now 11 days, 12 days away from Trent being able to start talking with clubs outside the Premier League free and willingly. So that really, really worries me. Anthony Davis said, is Trent worried about the fans' reaction? So, again, mate, I can only say that. To me as a fan, it feels like he wants jam on both sides of his bread here. He wants to dangle the Real Madrid thing as an option to bump up a contract offer, but then wants to put out that, you know, he's been loyal to the club. If you're loyal to the club, you're going to say, I want to be here, I want to get this contract sorted. Yes, we're a little bit away, but this is where I want to be. And I know people will say, but that'll weaken his negotiating stance. But what about his legacy? That has to come into consideration here. Because the PR around this from Trent's perspective has been shocking. Because I don't know many Liverpool fans who haven't had a tinge of frustration towards the situation. And as I said, I read through the comments of some of the videos we do, and people are just unhappy about a lot of stuff with Trent. So I just think he's not making life easy for himself here, and I don't want toxicity towards him, but I do want to hear the words I want to be here out of his mouth. Latif, how are you, my friend? And thank you for your super chat, bro. Said, opinion on Trent Alexander-Arnold interviews, Bradley good enough? So Bradley will be good enough, Latif, but I think it's fair to say he's not quite at the finished product level yet, which is understandable. He's still a relatively young man in that position. But I think long term, you know, he will be the heir to Trent's situation if he stays around, or at least he'd be a really good alternative for Arne Slot to utilise. With regards to Trent's interviews, there's just again a whole load of nothing. You know, I often look back at these interviews and I think, why do these people even bother to apply for the interviews? Because you go on there, you get told you can't ask a load of questions. You ask a load of fluff piece bullshit questions that nobody really wants the answer to. When the first question that every single Liverpool fan wants anybody interviewing any of these lads to ask is, are you going to stay? Do you want to stay here? You know, but they won't, because once again, transparency doesn't exist in football, and these lads are so mollycoddled and wrapped in cotton wool that they aren't allowed to come out with any type of honest sentiment or statement. And again, I think we're just being taken for idiots as football fans. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the interviews, is they're all just pointless. Whoever they are, none of them actually get any information out of any of them. They just sit there and basically pat themselves on the back for getting the access. So, but here's the thing, and I'm going to say this publicly because I want it on the fucking record. We're going to apply to Liverpool to see if we can have an interview with Conor Bradley. Because obviously as an Irishman, I'm very proud of Conor Bradley. And watch us get pawned off while channels in America and others just get access to Virgil and Trent. But yeah, we're going to apply to the Liverpool Media Department to see if we can get an interview with Conor Bradley. And I look forward to hearing what excuse we get as to why we can't. But I'm sure we'll get one. I'm going to ask it simply. Do you think Trent wants to stay? That's it. Because any other question I feel like is unfair. And I don't want to add toxicity towards Trent, but I do want to gauge the fans' feeling about it, because I think that's important for us and these conversations. You know, my thoughts on his wages are he's absolutely not worth 300 grand a week. And not just Trent, any right back in world football isn't worth £300,000 a week in my eyes. So, but I'd rather him get 300 grand a week and stay than not get it and leave. I'll be honest about that as well. You know, for me though, 250 is in and around what I think he's deserving of. Anything over that I think is too much. When you look at, he's going to have another contract extension probably in a couple of years' time again. So what are you going to do at that point? Zach said, has Trent handled the contract negotiations respectfully? I don't know, because we haven't really heard much. So, you know, you can look at it that he wants to keep it private, and it has been kept private. So if you look at it in that perspective and you say you're okay with it and it's not unnerving to you, I totally understand that perspective. But for me, I think it's gone on a little bit too long now without hearing any commitment about him wanting to be here for the future. And I don't buy this excuse that if he comes out and says that, he's basically taken the carrot of Real Madrid away, because I don't think he should be looking to play Real Madrid off against Liverpool for a club that he professes to love, grew up, came through the academy and wants to captain someday. You know, I find it a little bit disrespectful if he was then playing Madrid off against Liverpool and dangling this thing here, knowing, you know, that you either want to stay or you fucking don't. You know, the Madrid thing should be almost irrelevant to me. Yes, we know it's there. We know they might be interested in you. But just to use that this long in a leverage, I just don't like it, in all honesty. I don't want any of these deals going into January. Any of them. Because at that point, it then, to some extent, leaves Liverpool's hands. And if we get to January and Madrid can get to Trent and get in his ear properly, I think it only goes one way from there. Craig, I think Trent thinks he's more than just your ordinary right back. He is, but that's why he's getting paid what he's getting paid now. You know, I think Trent would be more than just your average right back, and that's why 250 grand a week is a number he's looking at, because, you know, look around Europe, you're not going to see too many fullbacks on similar amounts of money. So I think there is already that acknowledgement there that, you know, he's club's vice captain. He's already on a very good wage. You know, he's going to get offered another bump in pay, and there'll probably be another contract extension in a couple of years again. So to me, that acknowledgement's already been given to him. Patrick said, I don't see any club paying Trent 300 grand a week. It's madness. I don't think he'll get what he's asking for elsewhere. And if the reports of £100,000 a week difference, and Liverpool have offered 250 and he wants 350, I think that's piss taken. to be honest, because 250 is a good jumping off point for Liverpool. It's certainly headed in the right direction. But if, like, 250 is not even bringing you into getting closer to these negotiations, I don't know. I feel like at this point, Liverpool fans just want an answer and don't want to be strung along. Because even if he signs in 3 months' time now, I think this has, in some ways, damaged his standing in certain Liverpool fans' minds. The sign-on fee at Madrid, though. He'd get a sign-on fee at Liverpool as well, mate. Any player that's in that position that Trent's in there now, when he's renewing a contract that's up at the end of the season, he will get a loyalty bonus in that signing. So the signing bonus you think he's getting at Madrid, he'll probably get a tasty signing bonus from Liverpool as well. How much is Trent being paid? Currently, I think it's in and around 200 grand, Wayne, at the moment, per week. Imagine getting 100k a week. Oh, Morton, do you know what I mean? Most of us can only dream to maybe getting to 100k a year in earnings. And even that, you'd be happy with life at that point, wouldn't you? Keith said, I think we should let Trent go. Unfortunately, if he loves the club, he would have signed in a heartbeat. Yeah, and I agree. And that's where I kind of take some frustration with what David Ornstein posted. Because you can see the first part of that. It's just pure waffle. So to read it out again, Trent Alexander-Arnold has demonstrated strong loyalty to Liverpool and the club is making every effort to retain him. Why would you start off anything about a contract negotiation piece or talk about it in that way? I've not seen a shred to show that he's shown tremendous loyalty to Liverpool personally. And I'm not saying he hasn't either. But where, how? In what way? I really don't get this. Because loyalty to me would be telling Liverpool that you are the destination where they want to be. Look, I can understand somebody holding out on their contract for a number or wanting to get closer to the number they want. You know, that's a negotiation. But like I've always said, the thing that's stuck in my throat through all of this is just not hearing him come out and say that he wants to be here. And I don't care if people tell me that that'll weaken his negotiating position. It would take a lot of pressure off his back with fans. Andrew said, Trent's body language says it all. Reading too much of his own PR for a long time now. Look, I think all footballers live in this weird little bubble at times where, you know, they're surrounded by people who basically are paid to just be yes people around them and blow smoke up their arse. And sometimes I think a bit of reality needs to set in here. And I feel quite comfortable in saying that this contract negotiation hasn't done anything to endear Trent more to the fan base. I think that's the fairest way I can say it. There's no doubting that Liverpool fans, and I'm one of them, feel a little bit frustrated by it. And, you know, we spoke before about a piece that came out that said Liverpool could have tried to get Trent to sign on before announcing Klopp's departure, but out of respect they didn't. And they were upfront and honest with Trent, with Virgil, with Mo. And, you know, now we find ourselves in this negotiating position. So I find it all a little bit snidey, to be honest with you. Dragging it along, not wanting to, you know, talk about it. Well, the new manager hadn't come in, then new manager comes in. There's always been an excuse. Excuse, but still no solution.